Torn between Donald Trump and Joe Biden? Here's former presidential nominee Hillary Clinton's advice for you.
It's Biden versus Trump.
Yes,
we know that.
It is. It is.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices. It's kind of like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people. And one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Yeah, okay.
I mean...
Okay, interesting.
She also said it's not really a hard choice.
I don't understand why this is even a hard choice, really. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
But we have to go through the election, and hopefully people will realize what's at stake, because it's an existential question. What kind of country we're going to have, what kind of democracy we're going to have. And people who blow that off are not paying attention, because it's not like Trump, his enablers, his empowerers, his allies are not telling us what they want to do. I mean, they're pretty clear about what kind of country they want.
Yeah.
Well, she's confused. I'll explain it to her. We live in a country with record income inequality. The American Rescue Plan was the largest upward transfer of wealth in American history. Every time consumers talk about how cost of living has gone up, they're told by the Biden administration that things are good now, actually, regardless of whether or not specific sectors that comprise the bulk of American spending, including education, food, transportation, and housing, have had skyrocketing inflation, not entirely attributable to Joe Biden, but a problem that neither party has dealt with. And at the same time that we're being told that there's not enough money to continue these COVID-era programs like the child tax credit that took a huge burden off of American parents, for example, or discontinuing by choice. Joe Biden discontinued the Trump-era student debt moratorium as a deal that he negotiated with Republicans in Congress. It does have plenty of money to send overseas, whether it's to a war in Ukraine or to a siege in Gaza that has killed over 32,000 people, and to a country that has just targeted in a series of strikes 7 aid workers, including multiple foreign nationals and an American citizen. And when Joe Biden previously talked about Americans that were killed abroad, he said, when Americans killed, we respond. Those 3 service members from Georgia that were killed earlier this year, or maybe it was the end of last year. Now an American has died at the hands of one of our biggest allies, and we're still sending them billions of dollars annually. That's why it's a tough choice to people, because both Donald Trump and Joe Biden's fingerprints are on all over all of those decisions. And nobody is talking about anything other than whether not one candidate is too old or another candidate has faced too many indictments.
But Biden's so compassionate. Yeah, I think this is a great example. You can put this in exhibits of Hillary Clinton's misunderstanding, or frankly contempt for the American voter. The way she comes across there is annoyed. And frankly, she had some of that from her own election, you know, the deplorables and all that. Annoyed that anyone could possibly reach the conclusion that they shouldn't just enthusiastically check a box for Joe Biden or for whoever the Democrat is. She actually, at the end of the clip, the way she said, I guess we have to have an election. This is the democracy. This is the democracy is at stake party resigning themselves to actually allowing a vote for who's going to be president. You know, she could have responded when confronted with the fact that it is going to be Biden and Trump again. She could have said, yeah, these are not ideal options. And in fact, a lot of Americans in both parties are dissatisfied with them. And it's on their fault. It's partly their scheming that it's ended up this way. On the Republican side, Donald Trump steadfastly declined to participate in debates with legitimate challengers like Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. He would not participate in the process. He punished the RNC, its leader, Ronna McDaniel, for daring to actually have that process play out the way it should in a democracy. On the Democratic side, the entire Democratic apparatus steadfastly refused to participate in primaries whatsoever. There were no debates to see if a Dean Phillips or a Marianne Williamson or anyone, or RFK Jr. at the time, could arise as someone that a party that says it has grave reservations about Joe Biden, given his age, saying that they don't think he should be the candidate. They didn't let that play out either. Now we're stuck with both of these people, and Hillary Clinton says that's your fault, not their fault. It's your fault, and you better vote for one of them.
Recall that in this moment, there are things that she could say to make a pitch for why Democrats are better than Republicans. Abortion is a hugely polarizing issue that frankly helps Democrats a great deal. She could acknowledge that, okay, there is public discontent about how Israel is implementing its war in Gaza, but this is what Donald Trump has said in the past, and you shouldn't be confident that it wouldn't be worse under him. You can make arguments whether or not I agree with them. You could talk about specific policy choices, Republicans trying to end school lunches around the country or attacking Social Security. You can make a pitch. But what really is telling about Hillary Clinton is that she seems to not believe she has to. She is exasperated at the notion of even being asked to make a case for why Democrats deserve your vote. And it's that sort of contempt for the choice that the public has that I think has been toxic to her own political career, and which frankly is toxic to Joe Biden right now, because it does not come across as compassionate to sneer at the voting public when they articulate genuine and well-founded reservations about the course the country is going in.
When they articulate reservations about the policies, about whether it's the economy, whether it's immigration, whether it's national security, they are evincing a distrust in Joe Biden to handle these things. And the fact that you can tally up Donald Trump's felonies or alleged felonies isn't really, frankly, doing a lot of work because, I mean, on the Republican side, people are convinced he's racked up these felonies because this is the response by a weaponized deep state to try to undermine him and prevent him from being on the ballot, prevent him from being able to run for president, to literally put him in jail. They're saying, yeah, the reason he's facing all this stuff is because he was fighting back against the system. Now, I think you can make all sorts of critiques of that. How well did he actually fight against the system? Some of these things are more valid, you know, the election stuff really in his own party even. There's tremendous frustration with how he handled that. Some of this is less compelling. But it's not, I don't think it's persuading people who signal that, like, inflation is out of control, or I am deeply concerned about immigration. Or you're saying, well, you can't vote for Donald Trump because he has all these felonies against him. That's just not working. That's not responsive to what they're saying their problem is.
And moreover, many people see Biden specifically and Democrats more broadly as criminal, if not equally, then similarly in kind. Obviously, there's all the discourse around whether or not Joe Biden should be impeached over this alleged pay-to-play scheme with Hunter Biden. As we discussed at length, there is no smoking gun there, but it doesn't prevent people from thinking that the same pall of kind of bad act doesn't hang over Joe Biden the way that it hangs over Donald Trump. Not to mention the document case and other instances where people feel like Donald Trump has simply been targeted or singled out for the same kind of behavior that others, including Hillary Clinton, has engaged with respect to the mismanagement of documents. Meanwhile, you have in this last term one of the most ineffective kind of stagnant Congresses in the history of Congress in terms of how much they actually passed and what they were able to do. And notably, the kinds of things that don't get enacted are those that are enormously popular with the American people. Nancy Pelosi never bringing to a vote the bill that would limit her ability to not do insider trading with stocks, called very smartly and cleverly by Republicans the Pelosi Act, and an acronym that makes sense even though I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. Not to mention these big ticket items that both parties have turned their nose up at. Joe Biden saying that even if a Medicare for All bill were to be able to pass the Senate and the House, that he would veto it.
Yeah, there you go.
This is what you're asking Democrats, voters, to get excited for and to come out for. No wonder there is such an appetite for any alternative that is being funneled now into this effort to elect RFK Jr.
But a lot of people in Hollywood and a lot of Democratic elites, they think the ickiness, the vibes of Trump, because that's how they feel. You know, your Joys, Joanne Reed, Joy Behar, those kinds of people having such a visceral hatred of Trump, they think they can sell that, and there's just no argument that that's working this time.
The real vibe session is thinking that Joe Biden can get away on vibes and that people are going to hate Donald Trump because of vibes. Vibe session, if you recall, was this discourse about whether or not the people were wrong to feel like the economy was bad. It was just vibes. Actually, the economy is good. That was malarkey, to use a turn of phrase that our president enjoys. I think the real people who have to look at themselves in the mirror and assess whether or not they're dealing with reality or some sense of vibes is a Democratic Party who seems to think focusing on Donald Trump being more in the public eye going into the election season, perhaps submitting to debates, being out in front of cameras is gonna be enough to remind the public that, oh, he's icky and that you just got to hold your nose and vote for Biden.
And contrary to what Hillary said, those are not the only two choices. There is RFK Jr., there will be a Green Party candidate, there will be a Libertarian Party candidate.
Cornel
and you
West.
do not have to succumb and just vote for the lesser of two evils among two. That is not actually the way it works. More Rising right after this.